Sorry about that. So anyhow, like I was saying, we have to just get a kind of a grips on things, or else we're going to keep on going around and around and around. Those are going to be upset because I want to bring the Bible in, but I'm just saying it's still a historical document. So I don't look at it as like a book. If you put it on the ground, you're going to be going to hell. I don't look at it as God wrote it. I look at it as it's information that's been around for a long time. And if you're in the right mind, and if you're in your correct consciousness, then you will be able to see something deeper than what you've been misled to see or believe. Okay? So the archetype, the model, the first form, okay? Uh, Now, where are we at when we're talking about this first form? But we do know that in Genesis there was a man formed. We'll keep it at that so we can try to keep this down. But again, there were already people here in Genesis. Believe that. There were all, well, know that. That there were already people here in Genesis, and it is looking like the video I did last night when we were reading from like I think it was like from the 1700s, 1800s, the book. And it was talking about how they took the land from the American Aborigines. Let me see if I can. Okay, right. So this is why I say I like to use this term. Okay, there's lots of great information in a couple of pages that I've read from this already, and I think that we can get a lot more. So I did the video and I shared the link to this in that video. Okay, but it says here, we'll just skip down. Okay, so it says rights and property have been derived not only from compulsive power, but from papal. I think everybody wants a piece of me today. So let's see. But from papal assumption, when Columbus discovered the new continent, the Pope, okay, I don't know what they call the Pope. I hear like something like the Vicar of Christ. So if that's the Vicar of Christ and he looks like death, and the vicar is supposed to be something like the essence or the something that they're sucking from, then I don't know. But let's keep going. The Pope claimed it was as the lawful proprietor or Jure divino. Now, I don't know about this. It just this looks like a pure divine, or I'm telling you, this has to mean something else. I just see that when I see things when I'm looking at something, it just kind of like warps into what it really is trying to say. You can look up this term on your own, but I don't know. Divino seems like divine, maybe, but I don't know. Okay, because next then we're going to say by a divine right. Okay, how popes or kings can prove their divine rights by indubitable evidence, I leave to politicians. These are the people that's playing, these are the puppets that's playing these games with you. And why I don't even understand why. I know they're trying to do that whole revolt thing to try to get you involved in voting, but I'm dodging it. You won't catch me ever again. And my spirit says it's not for me. I know a lot of things that we sign our name on and we do these things. We don't understand what we're doing. Are you applying some power to them that is keeping them there and keeping you here when you do that? Now, we're stepping out of the educational, mainstream, scholarly way of looking at things, but there's so many fucking scholars, but there is a lack of knowledge and a lack of understanding. Do you understand what I'm saying? So this is why we have to do this. We are spiritual creatures. Why are we still? It's in you. The Christos is in you. A lot of this stuff, okay, let's just go in. I'm not trying to go off sidetrack. And the fanatics What are they talking about? All these liberals and these leftists and these right and these what do they call them? It's something like obsessive. You know what I'm saying, okay? Like they're trying to say that we are because we're looking for the truth and we're sharing the information. I can't remember the word right now. So um, to make known and enforce. And again, this is enforce things. This is what your law enforcement is for. This is what your military is for. This is the stuff that was here. We'll just okay. That's these are the forces. So when I'm talking about forces on this channel, and I don't want to use certain terms to be able to get targeted or hit by strikes on this platform, these are the terms that I'll be using, okay? So it says by compulsion and delusion. So compulsion and delusion, and again, I don't know, I didn't put all that together, but when I'm thinking about these people, what they do, and then how they use their news to get you on a compulsion, get you in your feelings real quick, so you're not using your sense of judgment when you start running your mouth about what we're really talking about on these things, and you don't understand the games that's being played with the minds of the people for so long that you are locked up in a conscious battle, okay, with these people, and they use these crafty tools and celebrities and their television and things like this and their education indoctrination stations in order to have you in this state of mind. So us waking up like this is the wrong thing to do for them, but not for you. So you don't have to follow the construct that they've been giving you. Go off the tracks. Do you see what I'm saying? Against the grain. And we're in a delusional state. So I'm not saying that this is what this means, but these words, they just bring something to me to try to show this to people that are not there yet, okay? These may plunder, okay? Now, I hate when I see a big gap right here because I feel like something's missing, but we'll keep reading. These may plunder Hindustan or of her riches. If you think the Hindustan, I'm not saying that this was what it is, but my spiritual mind is guiding me over to all of these ancient temples and things with all of the people intricately, carved into these temples and buildings over there that are in ruins now. And you wonder what happened to those kingdoms, and that how everything over there is so rich in gold, and in Spain and in England they have these intricate works and things like this. We had some here, but I think a lot of ours was just devastated and annihilated, okay? But what I'm saying is, we're reading here, could this be true? This is all you need to keep it in mind. Nobody knows if any of the stuff that you know is fact. Nobody has proven half the shit that we take as truth. It's all still theory, but we take it as truth. But then when somebody goes outside the box and try to show you something that makes all sense all the way around, in the spiritual aspect, in the biblical realm, in history, in law, common sense, what you can see with your own eyes, then you want to still say that it's off. And that's because your mind is in a place where you need to probably crawl up out of that if you want to do something about the current situation. And they'll always have somebody else paid or there to make you think that these people are working for you, and it's never going to happen. It's never happened. It never will happen. Matter of fact, I'm going to share a video with you guys from, I think it's Real Black, here on YouTube. And I mean, there's so many things that came to me from watching this. So the American Aborigine of their lands and robbed Africa of her inhabitants and enslaved their descendants and wiped away the iniquity of these acts by a divine right, which as it proceeds from goodness and from God, must be good and godly, but if it is neither one or the other, it must be diabolical, which has something to do with evil or satanic or something, and be derived from the opposite origin and power. So if it can be goodly and godly, it can be from them, but if it's something else, then it's in sin. It's in And you have to get the grips on this, because when you see stuff like this and you go back into the word or into that biblical text, you will not be able to turn away from what I'm telling you, because it's supposed to be there for you to hear, and it's supposed to activate something in you when you're reading this. But back to the point at hand, this book was written, let's see, in 1839. Oh, I knew what was going to happen. Okay, let's go back. Okay, this is when they were starting to redo everything, to tweak things in order to fit their story or his story. Okay, it says right here, these may have plundered them of their riches. So all the gold and stuff that they got over there, I'm sure they took things from here, but I think that we can see who still, who has everything that the ancient things that are left behind were once covered in all of this gold and stuff that Europe and all these other places have, as well. And then when we look at, what was I going to say, the American Aborigines were robbed of their lands. So we are wondering who the Americas was taken from. It does not say the Native Americans. And if we're using the term Aborigine, okay, even if we know that they so-called named America, and once you put Aborigine in front of it, then you're stating that these are the oldest people of this land. Okay, now we're going to talk about something that might be a little bit different when we start reading in this other book. So and then Africa of its inhabitants. Okay, so again, some of the inhabitants, yes, from Africa were taken into slavery. It was not millions like they told us. It was only about 250,000 or so. And I don't know how many more that came to the North America, okay? I don't know how many more came from anywhere else or whatever else. You know what I'm saying? Again, who knows how big Africa, which wouldn't have been probably the name back then, was. Well, it was at this point, but not back when they're talking about this stuff happened. Some of this stuff happened. If you look at a lot of the African peoples of Africa that they don't show you mainstream, when we look on the outskirts, the ones that they don't really show us, okay, if you look at those people are clearly Asiatic or Asian in their descent, okay. So if we are talking about the fact that Asia, or let's just look at China, because China is huge. They ain't nowhere for nobody to go in China no more. But I'm going to tell you that at one point in time, China, which if you look at it now, you get the perception that there are only people that look like Chinese people of today in China, no one else. You don't see documentaries that much about the black Chinese that's left. We can go everywhere else and probably still find them. We can find them in Israel. We can find them in America. We can find them in South America, Mexico. There's still a remnant. The remnants are still there, except we don't get to see it in China. And for it to be so populated and so huge, where did the darker people go? I think what they did was push them out of China. I don't know if Mongolians, I haven't looked that far or whatever, but Mongoloid, that's still all Asian or Japanese, if we just want to put it in a common realm to me. So now you're looking at the fact of most of these people that you so-called see in Africa, they clearly descent or came from Chinese people. So what happened in China? So now they have obliterated all of their people of color. The land is not prosperous for them anymore. They don't have, you see what I'm saying? And these people moved over they migrated somewhere. So some of them probably went into Africa. Africa's population wasn't even what any other place was back at the times that they're talking about. Okay? So when we look at this and we look at that there was black Filipinos and there's a Negro land or a Negro land in the Philippines, and there is let's just say this. Let's just look at China now. You wouldn't think that there was ever black people there. But what I'm trying to tell you is they may be the children that are now in Africa. They may be the people of Asia, Africa, because again, they teach us about the 7 continents. I see 2. I see the Americas and her islands, including Canada and whatever that shit is up there above Canada. And then I also see on the other side that that's one mass, and that's got Europe, Afri-Asia. Okay, that's what I call it in my studies. Okay, so when we're looking at that, those are all still, like I said, a lot of those Africans that you think are just African are people from China. And then when we go into West Africa, that's where they always try to point you to. Nobody's saying that we people them to that extent, but when it comes to Sierra Leone and I can't remember the other one off the top of my head right now, those places did around this time start being populated, and maybe even earlier with American Aborigines that had either chose supposedly to go there or were placed there or had been taken there. Okay, so again, if you look at it, then what do you have left? Because north of that, there is a lighter cast of Africans from Morocco and all that other stuff. And then you have your southern Africa, which is supposedly more white. Okay, so that was a big rant and it's all, but the main point to take from here is that the thing that has been claimed back then was that the American Aborigines were, the land was taken from those people. It don't even say Indians, it don't say Moors, it don't say, and I'm not saying that they might not have been grouping people together, but what we're just saying is in order to be an Aborigine, okay, we were at this archetype, the first form, original pattern of which copies are made. So now, what I was saying about China, the archetype, who is the archetype? I think the archetype are a lot of those people that are in some parts of Africa, okay? The archetype here would be the American Negro, so-called Negro, Aborigine, hidden from the story, okay? When we're talking about Europe, we may be talking about the original people that were there that we get a depiction of sometimes here and there, but they're not really talked about. That is the first form, the original pattern, okay? And now you have what you have now on the throne, okay? Spain, France, first form, the model, first form, original pattern from which copies are made. Now you have people in power that went into those bloodlines of nobility, even when the Dark Ages, and I'm calling the Dark Ages that, I don't care what they call it. And that's why this guy wanted darkness he saw darkness on the face of the deep and he wanted it to be light, okay? So when we're talking about this, that's very well could be what we're saying, okay? This is just a theoretical study, fair use. This is just for educational purposes or to enlighten one. A pattern, a model, a figure on a seal, okay? Okay, to neuter, okay? And then this word keeps popping up. Even when we're talking about in Genesis, the rib, I keep saying we need to look deeper into what that rib is because we're going to find out that that rib could be some say DNA. It could be, some say we could be even talking about removing something from an extremity, okay? And then neuter too is the cut off too, okay? I'm sorry, that's like a little tag on my table. I keep moving around, okay? So just keep that in mind, okay? You can do further studies, just keep it in mind. I'm just showing you what I found so far. The first molded, okay? And then we say the beginning, okay? And this is why it had to probably be goodly, okay? Or godly first, okay? So the beginning, the origin, the first place, okay? So of an archean, okay, to be the archeon, okay, to be the first, okay? But again, when we're talking about this, still, they're first or the first, the original, okay? So model, type, blow, because remember, he kept on doing things in Genesis to manipulate the gene, to manipulate the gene. People think we're talking about plants and animals. You can keep thinking that, but we're manipulating the genes here until it can stand, the tree can stand on its own, like the founding fathers and things like this, okay? So let's see. Okay, so a model, type, blow, mark a blow. Pervasive idea or image from the collective unconscious. Is from 1999 image. Okay, I mean 1919. Um, let's see. The myth in the same time as the autochthonous individual products of unconscious origin. So unconscious origin, or unconscience. No, that's unconscious. I keep running into conscience and I keep getting them mixed up. Okay, so that just sounds very. I'm not saying it says what it says, but the way it resonates with me is that at the same time as autochthonous individual products or produce. Remember, we can get that from there of unconscious origin. So again, unconscious would be just like an or not knowing origin of or pertaining to an archetype. Okay, so let's see what else. Other related terms are here. Form, okay? Okay, form, semblance, image, likeness. Remember God said that he wanted to make a man in his likeness, okay? Form, appearance, and then the Lord God came along in chapter 2 of Genesis, and then he took from the dust and the dirt, which could also be the earth or the people, okay, or the land, and then he formed a man, okay? And that man was supposed to be the man that was placed in the garden in the east of the garden to work with it and trim it and keep it looking nice and goodly and to control it and to put up a judicial system. And do you see what I'm saying? Okay. So appearance, pleasing, looks to get it to how they like it. Okay. Light, remember when we're talking about in Genesis, light, and he made it light and he saw it was good. Okay. So again, shape, to dress it, to keep it, to subdue it, to replenish it, okay? Image, way, manner, okay? So for those who are saying, oh, the Bible is not prejudiced, the first sentence, if you know what I mean, was already setting up the firmament or setting up the tools in order for this that we're in today to happen, okay? And don't tell me that because God was going through the Bible, plowing down areas, removing people and killing people in order for other people to get these lands that were promised. Doesn't that sound like what the throne was doing? And when I say the government, I'm including all of that. The popestry, the queens and kings, the politicians, it all falls down from that same top of the temple, that cornerstone that we're talking about when we're talking about the caste system, when we're talking about the Illuminati, when we're talking about your dollar bill with that eye, that all-seeing eye standing on top of the temple floating above, and then everybody else is below, and then as above, so below, the black and white duality. Let's pull it all in, okay? So a pattern, a design, a sort, a kind. And this is where you get your other of mankind. Kin is also in there, okay? Humankind, whatever you might want to say, okay? So morph, and again, ain't it a makeup company? Yeah, I think so. Okay, that doesn't. Okay, so form, beauty, outward appearance. So we're talking about the outward appearance, okay? And then the inward starts though. So the enlightening or the illuminating of the, do you see what I'm saying? Temple of certain people started the whole thing as to how they were going to construct to put these forces and these laws and then remove the laws and have you keep on doing the same thing. Okay? So again, now we have a deplenishing, since God saw that He wanted it to be light, and He saw it was good. And nowadays we as darker people are saying, wait a minute, I don't have anything against anyone, and I have mixed people in my family, but I also can be honest with myself and be non-biased and say, hey, what is this doing to us? Where will we be in the future? What is going on now? Okay, in order to, that doesn't mean that I cannot speak on this, okay? And it's not coming from a hateful place. It's coming from the fact that while everything is supposed to be, oh, we can be what we want. Oh, make dolls so that your girls can be boys and boy. We have to grasp something right now. Okay, so in a minute, what? I just don't know what we're going to have here. Okay, so I'm speaking because I have children and grandchildren that will be left behind when I leave this place. And I think it's up to us, the 80s babies, the 70s, 80s, maybe 90s babies, all of us to do some of this work, to lay the foundation. We're not looking for one person. We're not looking for one man. They tricked us with that for too long, talking about black leader this, black leader that. No, we all hold a piece of this puzzle, and you better get to work. From 1300s, are we in the third day of Genesis? Physical shape or something, contour, outline of a person's shape of body, appearance. Again, we can just keep on looking at this. You guys can look at this on your own. I was just bringing it up. So now we're talking about the Archeon. To begin the beginning, one of the 9 chief magistrates of the ancient Athens, and this is maybe in the 6th day, Archon, ruler, commander, chief, captain, the first, thence to be. And if you think that those places and all these buildings over here in the District of Columbia, which is Washington, D.C. also, if you think that those buildings were made by any man's hands that was here after the 7th day or the 1700s, when we had our first president in the 1789, I believe, okay? If you think that those buildings that you seeing over there in that place, all those, the beautiful architecture and everything is going on, that somebody was making that here with horse and buggies when they came over here, think about that. Those are leftover portions of the empires that fell from here, and you were not brought from Africa. If you speaking like this, you are a ascendant now. We may have been descendants. You are ascending now. You are who those people were, and that is, you are an heir of this throne here on this damn property that you standing on. So stop even looking to Africa. You ain't gonna get it. They not looking for you. Grandma told you something, and you need to resonate with that and do your genealogy. That's going to feed the soul. It's going to strike and illuminate and activate portions of the mind that we have not been taught about, that you don't know exist. This is where we're going from here. So again, a lot of these buildings are leftovers from your ancient bloodlines. Folklore, all this other stuff, mythology and stuff. The times have been changed. We are talking about shit that's deeper than you think. We'll leave it at that. Begin from or with, make preparation for. Again, that's what the firmament in the book is. It's not no fucking imaginary thing in the sky. Make preparations for. They were making preparations for the house of God when the military and all the people and the voyagers and the, you see what I'm saying? When all those people came here, then they made the firmament. Go ahead and take firmament, look it up in this etymology, you'll see what I'm saying. Also to rule, again, to rule over it, to subdue it, there's lots of things. Genesis is where it's at, y'all. This is where it's at. Okay? Also to rule, to lead away, to stray away, to put them in exile, prisoners of war. You were more likely prisoners of war than slaves. The real Slavic people started coming over here in the 18, well, they could have been coming in before, but the majority are those people that we're hearing about that they have actual records that came over here in the millions in the 1800s to replenish and to go ahead and now take away or give the things freely away to these people that they had taken from you. Not because you're black, it's because of who you are. It is your bloodline that has you in this place because they cannot let you get this information. So they have been having you entertained for a long time. And they can keep all forms of entertainment if you ask me. This is, you have to shed this shit away. What you looking at, this whole thing right here, this work, go to school, work, go to school, grow up, go to school some more. Be in debt, all this night, it wasn't even for you. We are people of the earth, meaning we need to be close to the earth and get back and connected to it, or else we will not be. Do you see what I'm saying? So instead of worrying about how to get back into theirs, how about we fall away where we stand and get to doing the work? I don't know if a motherfucker need to go ahead and create some kind of what they used to give you in school with all the phone numbers to the people in the school and stuff. Some kind of, I can't remember what it was called or whatever. But we need to get together and get something going on with some addresses or something so we can talk to each other and network in a different way. If we serious about what we need to do. And we need to start taking steps to fall away. Govern, rule over, be leader of, chieftain. Again, but these were supposed to rule over the waters. And we're going to go into this and show you how I'm talking about the waters are definitely talking about people. Those are the aliens, the immigrants, and I'm not saying this in a mean way to treat anybody any kind of way. They had no choice as well. So, but I'd have to bring the information forward. It doesn't matter. Now, the information has to be so that you can get a better understanding. So it says to rule over the day, the light, and to I cannot remember what it said to do to the night. I think it was to subdue and replenish the earth. Or no, it's something else to do with the night. To rule over the day and to all the night. Let me see. I got a Bible here. It's not the one I want. No, I'm going to get it. One second. I'll break my cabinet. My videos are long, but I like to drive things through, and I like to give you a lot of information that somebody that's a fast talker that's just trying to get the information through will have you miss because they don't want you to think on nothing too long. So to goodness. Bring forth the creature of all kind. Dominion, which reminds me of a dominance, but and God said, let us make man in our image, after our likeness, and let them have dominion over the fish of the sea, and the fowl of the air, and over the cattle, and all the other earth. Okay? And then over here it says, in 18, Genesis 1 and 18, and God says, set them in the sky to light the earth. Oh, wait a minute, that's the wrong one. Okay. Okay, and God said, set them in the firmament of the heaven, which is just the foundation or the establishment, okay, that they were able to get, because in 1775 or 1776 was the victory where the military had done all they needed to do, and now they can roll in their new leader, a couple of years later, 3 years later. Do you see what I'm saying? And that would be in the seventh day. And now they can rest and they can bring in God and he can go sit in heaven, which is simply, when you put it in etymology, means the house of God. There's just even right here, it says signs and seasons, or signs and wonders. This is a lot of this stuff that you're reading is a mix of what it was, terms, different things, and symbolical things. Okay? And so that he can, to rule the night. Okay? And this was in 1 and 16. And then there was another one that says, we'll get back to it because I'm wasting too much time. Okay. We'll get back to it. There's more there's separation of what I think after the Lord God created the man. So, okay, so let's go back before we get way off subject. Okay. So we already did this. Okay, so again, now we want to go back to the Aboriginal. Okay, and this is why I'm telling you about this term. 1660s, again. The first earliest existing from the beginning. Now, again, existing, okay, existing. So existing from the beginning. So again, we can look at this in different ways, but it says the first earliest, okay? And they're really tricky with this shit. So you have to be careful. But like I said, this is the closest I can see. Because we're in the 1600s, so we're in the 6th day. So again, right now, there is no governing. And then now that's bringing me to 7, okay, because it actually says, if you read it correctly, God didn't finish everything in 7 days. He finished it in 6 days. You can go ahead and read it over and over again, like I did from different versions of the Bible, and you will see, even from the Bible I just showed with you from the 1800s the other day, it said that God finished everything in 6 days, right there in the Bible. So it confirmed it for me because I was already looking at it that way from what I was reading, not what I've been told with religion and by the church, but how we're programmed just to say stupid shit sometimes. Just to say stuff like, oh, God is good all the time. Where? Why are you saying that? And that's something that programs people, and then other people feel good because they say it, and they feel like they fitting in because they saying it. And it's thinking that, well, how are you thinking? What thinking that what? Have you read the damn book? Do you see what's going on in the real world? Are you serious? No, and that's what I'm saying. Even if you read it, you're not studying it. You can't be. You can read it all 50, 100 million times. But there's only a few that are going to slow down and be able to look at what we're really talking about. So, I don't need anybody's input information. I'm going here. And I'm not afraid to do so. So, fear is what has people afraid to see shit for what it is. Yes, I said a bad word. And I'm interpreting the Bible better than any other Bible scholar or fake pastor, because they don't tell you the truth of how it is actually written. I'm looking at it like a real person that's dedicating their life to studying the word. Okay? And I know there's other people out there like me, but we won't be heard because this is not what they want you to hear. So, from the beginning, existing from the beginning. So this could mean that they were existing. It didn't say at the beginning, it said from. So this was somebody, Aboriginals were existing even from their beginning. Could be what this could be looked at as, okay? But anyway, it goes first and earliest, and it does not say Native American here. So, especially in the reference to inhabitants of the lands colonized by Europeans. Remember, the land was the Webster's 1828 dictionary. The American, the definition for American, the copper colored people found here by the Europeans, okay? And let's remember too that Europeans started off with their findings on the East Coast or the east of the garden. Do you see? In the South at some point in time where we say that the slavery was or whatever. And the people that live there mostly and still now, you get my drift? So, by the Europeans, it didn't say by the Spaniards, it didn't say by the Russian, it didn't say by the French. Did you get my drift? Pull up a map of what was going on when the stuff was first starting to be colonized. Okay? And that's the richest part of the land there. Somebody might say it could be something as like a Jerusalem, because I believe that was the name of Cortland, Virginia, before they named it Cortland. So just keep that on your mind. Let's see. And then look at the map that they have of Jerusalem from the fake, false part of it to try to manipulate you and make you think it's somewhere else. Then match it up with what you have where it would be here, and kind of just look at the map and examine both and see, don't you see the form start to form and the shape and things like that, that we may just be being deceived, okay? So the specific, so then it says Aborigine, okay? And then there, I mean, you even got gene in there if you look at it. So the origin, okay, but the ab, again, people will say the ab means remove, but again, weren't you? The specific Australian sense attested to 1820, so these people didn't start even being called that until 1820. Noun meaning an original inhabitant, okay, and that this is the dry earth, the dry land, the ground, the dirt, the earth, and then it says an autochthon is attested from 1760. Again, we're still in the seventh day. So is the autochthon, I thought, was even the oldest, which the term that the channel is under, and what I thought we were talking about at first, but then I started to realize that, I don't know. This one is still earlier. This one is still earlier than the autochthon. And then and it brings me back to Genesis when he made this man, and out of the ground, okay, again, the earth, the land, the dry land. The dry land just is the people that decided not to amalgamate themselves. And so they had to be dealt with in a different manner, okay? So, and you think about this when we're talking about even districts, okay? And then you have your District of Columbia, east of the garden, planted right between Virginia and Maryland, okay? And then look up the first families of Virginia, okay? And then, what does it says? Okay, but there went up a mist from the earth, okay? Okay, now listen to this part. This is Genesis 2 and 5. In every, wait. Okay, we'll start here. These, oh my goodness. Okay, so these are the generations of the heavens and the earth. Again, heavens would probably mean at the top of the temple, meaning anything that has to do with that firmament or the government, we'll say that, the government, okay? And the things that they use in order to keep you entertained and all that, right? And of the earth, below, down to the ground, below, the diletes, the untouchables, but then in the middle, you still have people that work for that to keep those people in that below the pyramid, actually on the ground, okay? So It says, these are the generations of the heavens and the earth, because an inhabitant, okay, someone who, a native or something like that, or indigenous person, would be someone who sprung from the earth. That means that you planted a seed, or somebody seeded that land and produced a something from the archetype or the original, okay? A model, something like it, okay? Mankind, okay? So it says, heaven and earth when they were created, okay? Now, those are the generations of heaven and earth when they were created. So, when the heaven, if we're not talking about the place where you've never been in the sky that nobody knows about, even when you die, you can't come back and tell anybody about it. So, if you're not talking about the heaven, okay, the highest point, a lot of people think like clouds or the sky could be representing the mind. But again, I know that the definition is saying that it's the house of God. And if the government is playing God, then you do the math, okay? So this is talking about the generations that was there when that was created.